Before I start, I want to say I really that was such a joyful surprise to have the choir just encircling us. That was beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was really ready for you to just start directing all of us. And I was like, oh, we've got this. So, oh, be joyful is the translation. Thank you for that gift this morning. There is a saying that perhaps you are familiar with. Maybe you've heard it. Maybe it's something that you appreciate as a saying and share it. And it's popular in Christian settings, and it goes like this: I am blessed to be a blessing. Have you heard the saying, blessed to be a blessing? Maybe some of you have. Maybe some of you it is new to you. It had a social media moment at some point, and it was getting lots of attention. When that happened, it tended to get shortened. Instead of blessed to be a blessing, it just got cut off and became #blessed. And so sometimes it lost the second half of that, which is to be a blessing, to share it, to extend it. And Christian historian and Duke Divinity School professor Dr. Kate Bowler writes quite a bit about what happens when it becomes #blessed and associated with what is called the prosperity gospel. Prosperity gospel is something I would consider an understanding of Christianity that's a bit more transactional, in which faithfulness and blessing always rise in proportion to each other. And that sometimes is what happens when we do #blessed and forget the second half of the saying. And so because of Dr. Kate Bowler's work, I've become a little more hesitant when I hear this saying. But I will forever remember it first and foremost in a southern drawl of a dear friend of mine. Her name is Kathy. I met Kathy when I lived in Atlanta for seminary. She was in a women's group with me at Brookhaven United Methodist Church, a church that formed me for the 3 years I was in Atlanta. And Kathy, if she had a catchphrase, if people had a catchphrase, her catchphrase would be blessed to be a blessing. That is how she understood herself. She understood herself as someone who was blessed, and she understood herself as someone whose job it was to extend blessing in the world. I'm pretty sure even if she didn't understand herself as blessed, well, number one, there was no way she would ever understand herself not as blessed. Blessing was the worldview she lived in. But she would extend hospitality and generosity and compassion to anyone and everyone. And so I remember Kathy, and I remember her and her southern drawl, blessed to be a blessing. I was thinking about that a bit this morning because I was thinking in Abraham and Sarah's story, we get the characters who are perhaps the original blessed to be a blessing people. That is indeed what God's promise to them was, that they would be ancestors of a great nation, and through them, all nations, all peoples would be blessed. It's the original, blessed to be a blessing people. Their promise from God, as I believe all promises are, was not meant to be hoarded or confined, but to be expanded and shared in the world. And that promise that God first made to Abram was when Abram was 75 years old. A beautiful reminder that God's promises can come and intersect our lives at any age. But today, when we meet Abram and pick up his story again in Genesis, by now a couple things have happened. Number one, he is now Abraham, and he is now 99 years old, and still waiting. Still waiting on that promise that came 25 years earlier. And when I reflect on the story of Abraham and Sarah and their waiting, what strikes me is how they live and what they do while they are still waiting. Maybe you remember last week when Abram at the time first received the promise, he responded in faithfulness. He set out for the land, the place, the unknown, yet to be revealed to him place, where God would go before him and offer him that promise. And in the years since then, even when trials would come, Abraham and Sarah tried to protect the promise. They tried to participate with it. Sometimes they even got a little clever in trying to help it along. Maybe if not only through Sarah, through Hagar, then the promise could come to pass. Stay tuned. Next week, we will hear how God extends promise through Hagar. But the promise was for Abraham and Sarah together. And so today it has been, where we pick up the story, it's been 25 years of waiting. They are still waiting on that child that will beget them the multitude of generations. But what strikes me is that what they are not doing as they wait is they are not waiting to bless others before they are blessed. I'm not sure I said that. I said that kind of like a tongue twister, so let me try it again. If our world today is tempted sometimes to stop at #blessed and forget the second half, to bless others, what Abraham and Sarah do is they don't wait for blessing. They keep getting on with blessing others, even while they wait. You see, when 3 strangers appear at their door, Abraham runs to welcome them. We don't know if or at what point they understand that they are entertaining God and God's presence in their midst. They see 3 weary travelers and they extend hospitality. They meet them and say, come on in. Have some water to drink, have some water to wash. Take the finest of the flour, prepare cakes for our guests. I will go and get the best calf to feed them. They don't wait for their own blessing to be realized before they do the work of blessing those in their midst. They simply get to blessing others. And I want to be clear on something. This is maybe part confession. It is part confession. I'll be clear that there are times when I am desperate in my own waiting. I have been known to pray a sort of bargaining prayer to God. God, if you will save, God, if you will answer, God, if you will intervene, God, if you will, I will do this. Some of you are nodding. This might be a familiar human experience in our desperation. We seek to offer something to God in exchange for blessing, a bargaining chip, perhaps. And I want to be clear that I do not think that Abraham and Sarah, that their hospitality is offered as a bargaining chip. I don't think they see it that way. I don't think God receives it that way. And in part, I don't think that's true because they laugh at the plan. And I say they laugh at the plan because while this story tells Sarah's laughter when she overhears, I'll come back and you'll have a son. In the story before this, when God reiterates the promise to Abraham, Abraham is the one who laughs. So they both are laughing. For all their faithfulness, for all their steadfastness in waiting, I don't think they're actually holding their breath that this promise 25 years later is coming to pass. And yet they remain steadfast. They remain faithful. They fulfill, even before it is a commandment to the generations, they fulfill what is a key component of that commandment, which is hospitality. They extend hospitality. They extend welcome for a stranger before it's even the commandment given to them. They extend love in action, even while they are waiting for 25 long, brutal, painful, agonizing years. Their way of being in the world is not a transactional bargaining trip. It's not a, if I do this, you do that kind of way of being. They have simply chosen to bless others and chosen blessing as their way of relating to God and each other. And there's a big difference between that, to choose a way of blessing because it's a way of being, and to choose a way of, I do this, you do that, transaction. Sometimes we confuse them, but they're pretty different. But I think is curious. Do you know the way in which Abraham does bargain with God? This is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's interesting. Yeah, Sodom and Gomorrah, the only time or the way in which Abraham actually bargains with God, it's not about unlocking promise for himself. It is about protecting innocent lives. In the story right after this, God has come and heard the cries of injustice in Sodom and Gomorrah. God is going to wipe out all of the pain and the hurt and the grief. And Abraham says, "But God, will you wipe out the innocent with the guilty?" What if there are 50 innocent people? 40 innocent people? For 40, I will spare the city for 40. 30, 20, can I get 10 innocent people? The only bargaining Abraham does is not for his promise to come to pass. The only bargaining Abraham does is as if the promise is already here. If he understands that nations will be blessed through him, he seeks to live as if that is true already, to bless, to protect, to care for those who are innocent and need, who are weary and wandering and strangers. He seeks to bless already. That Abraham's bargain doesn't fully hold because God's messengers show up and are met with inhospitality and brutal violence is a different story. But Abraham and Sarah are not waiting for the blessing before they choose to bless others. They simply extend welcome, usher others in, show love, share what they have, take the finest of whatever they've got and extend it. This week, one of the newsletters that comes to my inbox that I read this week, it's from best-selling author and public speaker Austin Channing Brown, and it is her newsletter that is called Banned. It's a great newsletter if you're curious. It's called Banned, and in it she shared a story about a friend, and in this story, her friend was working a garden, and the garden wasn't producing a harvest. And this was really frustrating because, you plant a garden and you hope for a harvest. But in this case, her friend, she takes the harvest of her garden and she gives it to the food bank. It is a way in which she can answer the call to bless others, to do good, to share what she has. And so she was really, really down about her garden. And Austin Channing Brown reflected on the story and on her friend, and she said that she was so inspired because despite that frustration, despite still waiting for the fruit of the harvest, her friend went back to the garden, kept digging, kept working it, kept tending it, even though there was nothing to show for it yet. Her determination to help, to share, to be hospitable wasn't dampened by the waiting. And Austin Channing Brown reflected on her friend's story, and she wrote these words. She said, her determination to go back to the garden is like a quiet no to injustice in the world. It is a decision to return to the hard work of hope, even before we can see it in harvest. And she went on to connect this with all the small, daily, ordinary acts that many of us, I know, all of us, I know, engage in. Quiet, daily, ordinary acts of no to injustice, ordinary acts of blessing those around us, even if we are still waiting on blessing. The ways in which we are determined to yet make a better world. And Austin Channing Brown writes about, lives in, moves in, speaks in, works often around anti-racism work and social justice work. And she said in that line of work, the vast majority of our freedom work lives in the quiet no. It lives in the showing up, in the creating, in the writing, in the advocating, in the tending, the sharing, the caring, the digging in the garden, the ordinary everyday moments of offering, blessing what we have, even when the big fruit of the harvest is not yet here. That's where our freedom is, she says. When I read her writing, I thought about the quiet no as the determination to bless others even especially when we are still waiting. And just as she writes that our freedom is in the quiet no, I happen to think that our blessing as God's people is in the determination to bless others even while we wait. I think that's our work as disciples of Jesus. Our work is to extend hospitality, to show care, to show love for the stranger, to bless in every ordinary way we can, to prepare the finest of whatever it is we have, to live as though the blessing and promise of God, the kingdom come, is fully realized here. Because here's the thing about the way the story goes. It's the way God's stories ultimately go. God finds a way to fulfill the promise to Abraham and Sarah. God makes good on that promise, on that blessing, and finds a way to transform their dismissive, not gonna happen laughter into a sound of delight and joy. A son named Isaac called laughter. After all, is anything too wonderful for the Lord our God? Dear disciples, the Lord our God is the one who can turn our every ordinary quiet no to injustice into a loud, resounding yes to justice flowing down like waters. The Lord our God is the one who can turn all of our despairing sighs, our dejected laughter into the pure joy and delight that comes in the morning. The Lord our God is the one who will bring forth the promises until every last one of us is blessed to be a blessing. So, dear disciples, this is my hope and my prayer for us this week. My hope is that we would live and know that there is nothing that is too wonderful for the Lord our God. May we hold on and return to the hard work of hope. A quiet, ordinary no to injustice. Whether we are waiting on God's blessing still or reaping its harvest now, let us not wait to bless others. Let us simply skip to the end of it to be a blessing and watch and wonder at what God can do with that. Amen.